All aboard the Inland Empire Express. 10:50 a.m. Leaving no listeners behind. KCAA.
Money Talk. I'm Jesse Torres.
I'm Aaron Michael Sanchez.
All right, Aaron. Well, it is Wednesday. It's 4 p.m. You know what that means.
That's right. More Money Talk. And I am so excited for today's show because we're not talking just about money. We're talking about something very close and personal to any single person, dating.
Yeah, well, you're right. And you know, it's funny because this whole, we're going to be talking, well, let's reveal. We're going to be talking about online dating sites today. And not only about online dating sites, but really the business behind them. But, you know, Aaron, I never got a chance to participate. I have lots of friends that, you know, for years, you know, have been using the Match and the Christian Mingle and all those sites. And, you know, I met my wife back in the early 90s. We dated for years and years, got engaged and got married. And so I missed that entire virtual virtual dating, or at least connecting virtually and then meeting face to face. And, you know, I know you being a single guy, I would imagine you've probably dabbled in at least in online dating sites.
I think anyone that's single has dabbled at least once in their life. I would, especially since online dating has come out, there's so many different sites for that, you know, I mean, technically Facebook seems to be like a dating site too, you know, because you can meet people from that, or Twitter, or back in the day it was MySpace. But yeah, it's interesting as a single person. It's like, oh, okay, well, if it's out there, it makes you question maybe the person's out there that you'll never find other than online dating.
Well, and that's a great point. You know, how many? And I was watching Dateline or one of those shows, and they were speaking to the stats in terms of the number of divorces that originated because of Facebook. Mm-hmm. You know, and it was, you know, jealous husbands, jealous wives, you know, checking updates, you know, looking at the photos. You know, we know what happened with our good friend out in New York, Mr. Weiner, I'm sorry. And
turned out to be a wiener.
and what he did, you know, through social networks. And so it's become, it's become the way of the future. It's the way people meet each other. And,
right.
and so I thought it was time for us. You know, we speak to folks involved in the social world all the time, but we've never spoken to someone with respect to online dating. So I thought it was time that we bring someone in.
And I'm glad you're doing that because, you know, it kind of makes us wonder what goes on behind the scenes. I know I've always wondered, you know, what type of things do they look at in order to, you know, some of them are very proprietary. Like some sites don't even tell you. They make you take a test, and then they don't tell you what they go off of on how they match you with somebody. And then others just kind of give you faces to look at. There's even one site which actually takes your face, mimics it with another face, and they say based on how close you look like to each other, that because of your visual appeal, that the higher attraction will be higher. I mean, There's all kinds of different sites out there, so it's interesting to find out what works, what doesn't.
Well, then let's take this opportunity then to bring in Ken Deckinger. He's a co-founder at Jess Meet Ken. Ken Deckinger, welcome to Money Talk.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. And, you know, Ken, like you heard, I have, you know, this whole world is new to me. I've heard friends have, you know, great stories to tell about online dating. I've heard friends tell horror stories. I've heard people get married. I've heard people, like I said, get divorced because of it. Would you agree that regardless of your sentiment that these online dating sites, or at least these online meeting sites, are here to stay?
Oh, they're totally here to stay. Right now, there's 100 million people in the U.S. using online dating sites, and a third of all marriages that take place right now take place because the couple met online. So it's definitely here to stay, 100%.
So Ken, you've got an interesting story, and I'd like our listeners to hear that before we get into the nitty-gritty of this. How did this company, Jess Meet Ken, how did you name your company that?
Sure. Well, my wife is Jess. Jessica, we call her Jess. I call her Jess. And it's based on the true story of how we met. Our site is a site where women can post guys who they think would be a great guy for somebody else. And then if you're a single woman, and you see a guy you're interested in, and the two women talk, and then they make the introduction happen. And that's exactly how Jess and I met. One of my best friends named Adele, she posted me online. Jess saw this post. She emailed Adele. Adele and Jess, they chatted back and forth, and then basically it was eventually, hey, Jess, meet Ken, and Adele introduced us. So we basically put this concept together on how Jess and I met.
Okay, hold on. So obviously the other question I have based on that is, what if you didn't want to be added to that? I guess you could turn down the date, but now it's up there, so now it's like, you wonder, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Well, what's funny is when Adele posted me, I didn't want to be up there, but she wrote something that I thought was terrible, and she put this photo up of me that I thought was really goofy looking. But the reality was that she knew exactly what she was doing, and knew exactly how to sell me in a way that I never would have known how to sell myself. So I didn't want to be up there, but she's like, trust me, I know what I'm doing. And she totally knew what she was doing because I met my wife.
And that's interesting. Aaron, I don't know if I ever told you how I met my wife.
No.
So I met my wife while she was on a blind date with my roommate.
No way.
Yeah. And so they came back after, so they were down, they went to dinner, they went to the bar section in Hermosa Beach. This was about 22 years ago. And they came back. And when they came back, I went, to my room in the back, and the bathroom was straight back the hallway to the left, and my bedroom was straight back the hallway to the right. And she turned right and opened that door instead of going left. And that was sort of our introduction. And so then at that point I came out. There was no point in me hiding anymore. Uh-huh. And we had our first date that Wednesday. And so, here we are, over 20 years later, married.
So is your roommate, did he ever...
So he had a tough time with it at first.
Of course.
But I think it kind of speaks to, just so we talk about innovation all the time. And we generally talk about innovation with respect to technology, but we don't really talk about innovation with respect to stuff like this, the human condition, the heart, love, as Ken likes to put it, he's in the business of making love. Mm-hmm. And so this is incredibly innovative. So Ken, now tell me, this isn't your first, this isn't your first experience with dating sites. You've done this before then.
Yes, absolutely. So Adele, who is the meet in Jess Meet Ken, was also my business partner in a previous startup that we had called Hurry Date. We were among the pioneers of the concept of speed dating. This is in New York City. We started that business by throwing a speed dating event, had a great turnout, and we just kept throwing more and more speed dating events. So we built a pretty decent business. We were doing these events in about 45 cities, on 3 countries, at our peak, about 150 of these events a month. Then we launched an online dating part of that business. So we had the online dating, and then we had the offline speed dating events. And that company was acquired by Spark Networks, which is the parent company to JDate and Christian Mingle. So I spent almost 3 years then with JDate. So I've been in online dating now since 2001. I've seen a lot, experienced a lot, loved the business. And really just
no pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah. And I just love. I really enjoy the happiness that people get at it when they meet, and I believe that introducing people can really change a person's trajectory in their life, and it certainly did for me by meeting Jess. And now I have a family, and I'm grateful for that, and that's why we do what we do.
Have you tabulated or put out a report or asked to get a survey on how many children you've been able to
fathered
into the world?
Yeah, children I fathered. No, I've tried. We tried to do that, but a lot of times what we found, at least with Hurry Date, was that after we had helped people meet, they just were like, "Okay, thanks," and they took off. So it was very hard to understand that. I mean, we did the math, and at one point we feel like we had like over 2,000 or so marriages in like a 4 or 5 year period, and so if you do the math, if there are 2.5 kids a family on average in the States, you could kind of get something there. But that's all. We never really got the good numbers on that.
What's funny is because it is hard to keep track of them, because once they find each other, now it's awkward for them to stay on that site, because now they're like, well, hey, well, now you're seeing someone else. I thought we were seeing each other exclusively. So I can see how that could be a problem.
So Ken, now, Aaron and I were talking before we went on the air and about social sites in general, and essentially you are a social site. You're probably the epitome of what social sites are. I mean, you're uber social. How, when you develop these sites, and this is for everyone out there that either has a site, a social site of their own, a proprietary one, maybe that's not one of the big ones. How do you go about finding your audience for something like this? Because it is, you have to admit that this is a very unique angle. I mean, this is essentially guys, guys who've been jilted by the gal, who are nice guys, perhaps, and the gal says, "Well, you're not good. You're not good for me, but you're good for someone else." I mean, how do you market that, and then how do you get the guys to agree, to go on and participate?
Right. Yeah. Great question. So, in a lot of cases, these guys aren't guys that have been jilted, or they're not guys that have been rejected. They're just guys that, for whatever reason, aren't dating the woman who posts them. So it could be a cousin, or we could be your pool boy, or it could be a mom that posts a guy, or just a coworker. And so there's all kinds of relationships that lead to posting a guy on our site. And the way we get people is we've built this business from day one around the idea that our story resonates with people, and resonates particularly with women, and that's our target audience. So we've been very, very lucky so far to attract thousands and thousands of users, and we're just now launching. This is a pre-launch, but we've been very lucky to attract thousands of users basically through word of mouth, because people gravitate to the Jess and Ken story, and frankly, they gravitate to what we're doing, and we're adding a real value, and that's been leading to a tremendous amount of traffic and users for us.
Well, it is interesting because you're adding to something that's already there. Women love talking to other women about a guy that they think, and it's usually like their best friend. It's usually someone that they're not romantic with, but they see him going on other dates and they realize what kind of woman would be good for him. And oftentimes, like, I always get advice from my cousin and other women that, I'm friends with, that go, well, this woman's going to like this about you if you do this or that. And they kind of coach me. And at the same time, sometimes they'll come to bat talking in my favor to other women. So this already happens, but you're putting a legitimacy to it by adding a site to it.
Right, and that's what we say. We say, so for example, we always use the example that if a woman posts herself on Match.com at like 8 a.m., she's not going into her office and talking about it with everyone, because that's not a social event. What we've done is, if a woman puts herself, or if a woman's posting a guy on Jess 8:10 in the morning, she's talking about it with everyone at the office, because not only is it something that's fun and that's something that she enjoys, and just like you said, something that they're already doing, but she wants to go rally up more support. So she wants to tell her other girlfriends to help get this guy hitched. So it is a very social experience, something that is not found in traditional online dating, because a lot of times online dating tends to be a rather a rather private experience.
Yeah.
Until you're out there,
I want to talk a little bit about your target market. You just said women are your target audience, and about, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, Aaron, we had Vanessa DeMauro as a guest. She is the CEO of an organization called Leader Networks, and she had actually completed a study of social media users. And what she found after looking at interviewing over 900 social media users from age 18 to the 60s, or at least individuals, that it's the women who are the most active users of social media. They're the power users, and they're the ones that are most likely to share their experiences on social media. And so, I guess, I don't know, was that a conscious thought when you developed your platform, utilizing the woman because she's the one that's going to be most likely to do what you just said, which is go out and not only in the physical world share the information, but also do the same thing in the virtual world?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's our strategy from day one, has been that, again, the idea of telling a story and that people want to talk about and share, and exactly what you just said, that women are from a social standpoint, the ones who share that, and men do not share as openly. And I think that's exactly. I mean, that we had a theory when we started this business, and that was it. And if that theory didn't work, we probably wouldn't be talking today, because we probably would have done another business. So that's 100% right.
Now, with that being said, having done a successful online dating website, what are the numbers, if you can, on how many men sign up versus women on these sites?
Well, a lot of times online, it's typically very balanced, because sites are doing marketing to attract equal numbers of men and women. For the most part, I don't know the exact numbers offhand, but there tend to be a larger, I think, male audience in traditional online dating sites. What we found at Hurry Date was when we were doing our offline events, we had tremendous amounts of women signing up for our events, but we had a hard time getting men to the events, because for the most part, men didn't really like to put themselves out there in that type of public environment. But then when we launched our online component, we had a ton of men signing up, and so we used those two, the offline and the online, to kind of balance the genders out with each other because of that.
So Ken, I want to kind of speak to some of the nuggets here that you're sharing. I mean, this is obviously your platform, your social network is incredibly unique. One of the things that you just said was tell a story. Tell a story. If you're an entrepreneur, tell a story then about your website, your business, your whatever it might be, to attract those folks. What else? Being in the essentially you're in the mass market game. I mean, the more folks that you can attract, the more folks you can get to sign up to participate. What other bits of advice would you give, entrepreneurs, whether they're in the virtual world or whether they're in the brick and mortar world, to attract numbers? I mean, what advice can you give them based on your experiences?
Sure. So, at my core, I believe that business needs to have a story behind it. And especially, as you mentioned, from the mass market consumer perspective, if you can have people telling and selling your business for you, that only helps you, and you need a story to do that. And stories, I think, need to be authentic. So the biggest things that I tell people are that not only having a story, but have authenticity and have a passion for what you want to do. Being an entrepreneur is a grueling process, and something that you need to live and breathe, and you need to have passion for that. Otherwise, when things get tough, you're not going to see it through, and you're not going to succeed. So those are the two things that I tell people that going forward as an entrepreneur. And then I'd also say, look inside yourself and really evaluate what you're good at, and then figure out, look back and say, in the past, what has made me successful, and find a way to leverage that to then be successful in your current business or what you want to do. And just to give you an example, I am very good at being with people and in front of people, and there are a million things I'm bad at. So I've taken some time and really kind of looked at that. And so I'm also very goofy and as a person. And when I've strayed away from those two things, when I haven't let myself be out there in the public and kind of representing a business and talking about a business, and when I've tried to kind of shield my goofy personality and not be who I really am, those are the times that I look back that I wasn't as successful as I could have been. So find out what you're good at. And maybe you're really good at financial planning and analysis. That's something I'm terrible at. Well, not terrible, but it's not something that I would go out as one of my strengths. But maybe that's really what you're good at. So find a business that can leverage that. And if you leverage what you're really good at at your core, you'll be successful. You'll be successful, and you'll be in it for the long haul.
Now, I have a question when it comes to, again, these being online sites versus like what you started, which was the speed dating, which was bringing them into an event and then, getting a hold of them. And, of course, you started that early enough to where that was probably offline means that you got in order to acquire people to even know about it and come out. Now, and advertisers, at least big mass media, are now seeing that their numbers are going primarily to online buyouts, whether it be pay-per-clicks or video responses or other marketing means, but online. How much of your business do you put towards like pay-per-click campaigns, or do you not at all use that?
That's a great question, and you're right on. When we were running Hurry Day, we were able to. Our marketing was our event, and it was a profit center, so it was awesome. So for this business, it is different. There is a paid component to customer acquisition, but we're new, we're launching, and right now we have a lot of momentum. So we actually haven't had to turn any of that on yet. Our model does call for that down the road. But right now, we're leveraging media attention, and we're leveraging word of mouth to drive the traffic, and we're going to see how far that can take us before we turn the media buy component on. One thing that is probably pretty obvious about online dating is it's a very crowded space, and you've got players like Match.com with spending tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars on TV ads. So if we were going to compete solely in the paid customer acquisition game, we would lose. And so that's why our strategy really depends on the fact that people want to talk about us a lot. And so we're leveraging that right now.
I do have to applaud you for this reason, because there are sites that have done very well through word of mouth, but more for and I'm going to say it, the booty call. And so there are people that are out there that are not looking for that. They end up on these sites that are on these ones like these, and I know women have the same complaint as well as some men that, it's just.
Men complain about booty
calls?
calls?
Well, not all of them, but most of them that I know. And, or sometimes maybe it's the women. And again, therefore, there are not successful relationships that come out of that. In this way, I see how when you have two women kind of hooking up the connection, it's more of you're going to get in this for the serious part of it, of trying to start a relationship and continue it.
Yeah, and when we look at kind of where we fit into the competitive landscape, we pitch it that we pitch our business as a business that is more on the relationship side of things. We're not all the way on the spectrum of, say, eHarmony, and our process and our product doesn't have as much friction, or it's not as much depth in the profile, say, at Match.com. We want to get people in and using our product a little bit faster, but we are much more focused on the relationship component of our business than, say, some of these new apps that are out there that do lead to relationships periodically because of the sheer numbers they have, but for the most part, they're much quicker, and that's not what we're doing. We're a product for people that are looking to meet someone for a relationship, and it could be a day relationship, or hopefully it's happily ever after, which is what we really want. But that's the product that we're offering.
And I kind of want to touch on what you just said. It is a crowded space, and there is money being thrown all over the place, and so much so. I mean, you have guys like me who would never participate in something like this, and if we did, and let's say my wife just by chance happened to see an email of mine. I mean, and it's interesting because this is one part of that whole social space that I know completely nothing about, and there's a whole generation of folks, of men and women that are kind of growing up oblivious to all this. So Ken, we're sort of here at the end of our segment. If folks want to learn more about the Jess Meet Ken social site, where would they go?
They can just go to jessmeetken.com, and it's Jess as in Jessica, Jess, meet, MEETKEN.com. And thanks, man. I had a great time, guys.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, well, Ken Deckinger, founder of JessMeetKen.com, thanks for joining us on Money Talk this afternoon.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Great. And we'll be back with more after these messages.
Money, money, money.